They probably expanded the list to 200 just so they could squeeze her in somewhere.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason, Joe, and Crams are here, and today we are reacting to a Rolling Stone list. They have put out their top 200 singers of all time, and this came out a couple weeks ago. We're a little late in the reacting game to this, but we have a little announcement coming up later in this video that pertains to this, so it's a good time for us to do it. Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at this list. Anything jump out right off the bat to you guys on this list?
The main thing is the R&B love. Like, it's all over the place, which is a reflection of what pop music has been for the last 10, 15 years. So I think if they made this list in the mid 90s, early 2000s, it would have been drastically different. But Rolling Stone is always playing the media game. That's what they do. So, they have to shout out what's influencing the most popular stuff. I mean, that's how it is. If, the charts weren't full of Drake, Ariana Grande, and all that stuff, and it was modern pop country everywhere, Garth Brooks would probably be number 9 or something like that. But they call it to be modern, which makes sense. I mean, you got to give credit to what influenced what's popular today. So I think it's very much just a time capsule. If in 30 years there's some jazz is the biggest thing ever, then Nina Simone's going to be number 1 and Aretha Franklin's going to be number 2. So it's just how it is. But that was the main thing. But there was a good bit of variety overall, just not really at the top.
Yeah, it's a very different list. They did this list in 2010, and it was sort of like the old like fogey list back then. Like it was Aretha Franklin number 1, Ray Charles, Elvis, Sam Cooke, John Lennon, Marvin Gaye, Bob Dylan, Otis Redding, Stevie Wonder, James Brown. Like it was nobody from the past, 50 years, 40 years or whatever. It's all the old timers, the big names, the classics. And this time there's a ton of changes, a lot more variety, a lot more sort of offbeat and weirder singers and lesser known singers. Back in 2010, it was basically like, how popular were you? And we're just going to rank you in those orders. Also, taking in the legacy of people like Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin, because you can't really separate them. But you had like all the classic rock dudes a lot higher, Robert Plant and Mick Jagger and names like that. So they're going woke or whatever, and they're trying to get all their big popular names that people that reads the magazine and that listen to pop and R&B these days are gonna relate to, I guess. It just seems weird. I don't know. The judges change a lot, so I don't know who was judging this, but there's obviously always a concerted effort to like get in some kind of like new pop star. Like you need someone who's still current and still producing music in here, because they want to interview that person later and they want to get people talking, tongues wagging on the internet like we are now. So they're going to throw in Beyonce and Adele and Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, so some of these big names that, like, Whitney Houston just had a movie out and now she's number 2 on your whole dang list. Like that seems a little fishy to me.
Yeah, along those lines, like, if Stranger Things doesn't have the Kate Bush phenomenon, there's no way she's in the top 100. Just absolutely no way. Not to say she doesn't deserve it, but they're clearly capitalizing on trends.
Yeah, I don't even think Rolling Stone knows who Kate Bush was before Stranger Things came along.
Yeah, the thing for me with these lists all the time is like, what's the criteria? And even more so than I think their albums list, I think if you're talking about like singers or musicians of a particular instrument, the debate is always like, do you go for technical prowess or like technically gifted singers, or are you looking at maybe more artistic elements, people who have a way of delivering a song that's unique to them? And I think you kind of have to commit to one or the other, and Rolling Stone doesn't do that. It feels like a mix of both. Like these are the most important singers to us, the Rolling Stone editors, and then mixed into that are a bunch of just like powerhouse female, your Whitney Houstons and your Mariah Careys and your Adeles and your Beyoncés. And I don't know how you kind of rectify the clashing of those like two types of lists. It's very odd, and how you rank them amongst each other's kind of
Well, how
difficult.
you do that is you add 100 more singers onto this list so that you can just have them all in there. Like once you get to 200, like if you're not in the top 200, then like yikes, you have
Yeah.
really fallen off because basically everyone is there. Like there's
And
not that many like snubs at this point.
Celine Dion, the big snub.
Well, there's actually a lot of snubs, let's be honest. It's Rolling Stone, so metal is minimal. They did have Rob Halford, which I was pretty surprised that he made the list.
Made
You got
Danzig.
Dio, which is great. All props to them for getting Dio on there. And then they had Ozzy. So you get three metal people, literally no one from the prog rock sphere, like absolutely no one's even sniffing the top 200. Nobody from Genesis ever. So no Peter Gabriel, no Phil Collins, um, no who ever sang on Calling All Stations. Big snub there. But no Yes, no Rush, no ELP, just no one even associated with Prague is ever going to touch a Rolling Stone list. And the biggest drop that I could find on anybody, I believe, was Steve Winwood, who went from 33rd best singer of all time to not even on the list. So Steve Winwood really, his star has fallen, I guess.
I did like how some of the articles were written, at least like the some of the descriptions are really nice, like the way they describe, like I knew Kurt Cobain was being the top 50, and the way they wrote about him with like that wonderfully melodic, grotesque, blistering voice or whatever they said is like it's a very poignant way of describing a lot of things. So I think it's a good article. But like Beyonce is way too high, Adele is way too high, and the thing I read in the top 20 that I'm just like, oh, Joe's head is going to spin is Freddie Mercury one spot ahead of Bob Dylan, and Joe just being like, is there really just 1 degree of difference between these two singers? Like,
No, no. Listen, I know Bob Dylan's going to be way up there on the list. He always is. I think my biggest problem is still that John Lennon is rated as the highest rock singer of all time, as he was on the last list. He's number 12. He was number 5. He dropped a couple spots, but he's of rock singers, pop rock singers, he is the highest rated.
And with all these young singers like Rosalia coming out, how can Steve Winwood compete, really? Yeah, there's some head scratchers. I don't know. Do you want to get into some nitty gritty details of this list? Anything's
Well, I
ranking
have my
wise?
list here of snubs, like legitimate snubs, and I won't count the two biggest ones that I could find other than Steve Winwood. No Jim Morrison. I did not see him in the top 200, which is pretty surprising. I think he was in the top 40 before. And I'm always surprised that, well, I don't know. Bonnie Raitt kind of surprises me that she keeps making these lists. She was 50 last time. She's fallen to 187, but I don't know.
That might be the first example of TLM influencing the the Rolling Stone writing staff. Someone must have watched my video where I said Scott Stapp was better than Jim Morrison, and they got embarrassed to put him on the list, so they dropped him off.
All right, well, here's my list. Big snubs. Number 1, Mike Patton from Faith No More. He's weird, but he is one of the greatest, most unique voices. They could have thrown him on somewhere. I would have liked to seen Elvis Costello. If you want to throw on a Bob Dylan, somebody with a weird, Lou Reed's on here. Paul Westerberg's on here. You're not gonna have Elvis Costello on here. Get the hell out of here. Obviously, I would have liked to see someone from the Byrds, preferably Gene Clark, but I could have lived with like anybody, Graham Parsons, Roger slash Jim again. Like anybody, just throw somebody from the Byrds on there for God's sake. Somebody from Genesis, Collins or Gabriel, could have either one would have been fine. And I would have liked to see, somebody else from grunge, maybe Elaine Staley in there, more of a unique voice. Somebody with like an uncommon voice would have been nice, other than just, Westerberg, Reed, and Bob Dylan, like the usual suspects from Rolling Stone. I could have used Elaine Staley or somebody like that in there.
I'm surprised she's not higher. Taylor Swift at 102. And, no, objectively, like, yeah, one of the biggest pop stars of all time, but I still don't know if she's really known as a singer. Like, I
They're
mean,
trying to make her one.
She's sitting here like right wedged between Leonard Cohen and Gladys Knight. Like, and that just doesn't fit. I mean, she could be a great pop star, but her voice and all that, I think it's just like a zeitgeist around her. Like, I just saw a clip of her doing "Pour Some Sugar on Me" with Def Leppard or something, or Photograph, and people in the comments were like, just simply amazing, girl's a rock star. And it sounded so lousy, like no character at all. It just, people are just hypnotized by her. She has no business being in a top 200 singers list. Pop star, sure. Like, even songwriter, I would have taken like 102 as like the greatest songwriter ever before singer. I never once have been like, man, her vocals are just insane, ever.
They probably expanded the list to 200 just so they could squeeze her in somewhere. They probably were like, oh, dang, we got Taylor at 102. She's not going to make the top 100, make it a top 200. That's what they did.
That gets back to the question, like, what makes someone a great singer? Is it the delivery of a song? Because if you're going to argue like her vocal power is not good enough, then where should Bob Dylan land? That becomes, I mean, I think Bob's an actually great singer also, but you get the point. And also having Ariana Grande at 43, way ahead of Taylor, is very surprising to me from Rolling Stone.
Well, she's clearly a better singer, so at least they got that right.
That might be the most egregious one on the entire list, though, having her Ariana Grande at 43. I mean, she has a powerful voice, but so does Celine Dion and a million other people. It's that's a classic. We're just gonna put her on here because she's popular now.
She's three spots ahead of Mavis Staples, which is pretty hilarious.
Ahead of James Brown.
No.
Ahead of a whole bunch of people. Brian Wilson, Minnie Riperton. I mean, Minnie Riperton, there's somebody with a friggin' voice.
Well, I mean, obviously, we would have done it differently, and we will.
Killer segue.
That is right. We're not doing 200. We're doing 25 each, and we will be doing them in one. We'll be revealing one at a time each per episode. So this will be the new Friday series. It will be, episode number 1. All three of us will reveal number 25, and so on. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I've already got my list made. Interested to see what you guys have and how you kind of deal with this debate of like technicality versus kind of feel and uniqueness.
Well, I have to redo mine completely now that I've seen this Rolling Stone list. I got to squeeze Mary J. Blige in there somewhere.
I'm excited. Hopefully this is a popular series and we can propel it into best guitarists and keyboardists and drummers, bassists, saxophone players, all of it. Best falsettos, whatever you want, we'll do it. If you like the list shows, we'll do them all.
All right. So let us know what you think of this Rolling Stone list, what you think of the upcoming series idea. Drop it down in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe, and check out all the links in the video description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.